Hi, I'm Carter Clues. Welcome to Inside Judicial Watch. Today we have with us a very special guest, and it's a pleasure to welcome to Inside Judicial Watch Tom Fitton, the President of Judicial Watch. I know many of you out there know Tom very well. You know the leadership he's provided Judicial Watch, and we're going to talk with him today about that. Specifically, we want to discuss with Tom the deep state, the Mueller investigation, the obstruction that we're still experiencing with the new administration in getting the information that you need in order to keep your government transparent. Tom, welcome to Inside Judicial Watch. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Carter.
I have here 91 active FOIA lawsuits, 40 of which have been filed since the new administration came into power. What's going on? Why aren't we getting the information we need, Tom?
Well, when it comes to transparency, the deep state is running the show for the Trump administration. His political appointees are oblivious, if not hostile, to the issues of transparency. But the deep state is protecting its own. And we see this time and again, no matter what the scandal, from Obama through the Trump administration, they don't want to give up anything. And as a result, we're facing even more challenges under this administration than we did under the Obama administration. Because certainly with the Clinton email issue, you had great public interest in what was going on, and the State Department and Justice Department could only do so much to stall and stonewall. It was outrageous of what they did. Now the pressure is a little bit off. And so those agencies and the political and the holdovers and the permanent bureaucracy there is feels like they can do whatever they want, because the political appointees are so few and they're so harried, and they aren't paying attention.
When I talked to one of our top attorneys, Michael Bekesha, specifically about the Hillary emails, and he said, Carter, you need to keep in mind, when I go into court, it's the same attorneys, the same representatives of the State Department or Justice Department. Let's talk some about the Hillary emails.
And it's the same client they have. It's the State Department. The political appointees haven't changed the attitude at all. So the State Department that was telling us we can't get Clinton emails in a timely way is still telling us that during the Trump administration.
What's a specific Hillary email issue that we're facing right now that we're in court about?
Well, you name it, we're in court about it. With the Clinton emails, we have a request pending and litigation over the emails that she didn't turn over to the State Department, that the FBI went out and found, were undeleted, and then turned over to the State Department to provide to us under the FOIA. What's happening is the State Department is slow-walling the release of those informations. They're stonewalling the release of those emails. And so what we're facing is a time frame of up to the year 2020 until we get them all. So remember, she took 60,000 emails with her. She only turned over 30,000 initially, even though she says she turned them over.
She said 30,000 were of her taking yoga.
Yeah, though the others were personal. Well, it turns out that's not the case.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're trying to get the emails she didn't want us to see, and the State Department is stonewalling the release of that information. And in fact, they've slowed down the rate of production. Again, the Trump administration has slowed down the rate of production of the Clinton emails, so much so it won't be till 2020 till we see them all.
What about the emails that are on Weiner's computer, on his laptop? We've gone after those, right? Well,
that's right. We're still waiting to hear from him on that. We don't know when we're going to get them. And are defending Hillary on other matters too. You know, Mrs. Clinton's mishandling of classified information on this secret server she had. She had classified information on the internet equivalent of a public park bench. And she should have been prosecuted, right?
Right.
Well, under the Obama administration, and certainly under the rules, you know, that guide any administration, you're supposed to do damage assessments when classified information is potentially breached like this. You need to figure out whether it was breached, and if it was there a damage to our national security that needs to be addressed? Surprise, surprise, the Obama administration didn't want to do that, right?
Did not do it.
Did not do it. And so we pushed the Trump administration to do it. We got the proverbial hand to the face, and so we sued in court. And right now, the Trump administration, the State Department, the Office of Director of National Intelligence, the Justice Department, and the FBI are all trying to tell us that, well, Mrs. Clinton's breaches of national security weren't serious enough to warrant a damage assessment. They are actually making excuses for Mrs. Clinton under this administration. And I know, because there was a story in the Washington Times this week, or last week, that President Trump and the White House were pushing the State Department to release the emails in a more timely way. So this isn't, in my view, President Trump. This is basically, again, the deep state and his political appointees who are acting, in my view, insubordinate, unwilling to hold Mrs. Clinton to account.
If I'm not mistaken, by law, they are supposed to investigate any potential breach of national security. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what we're in court about. That's exactly right. And they're coming up with...
That's their job.
That's their job. And again, it's issue after issue. You would think they want to get all the emails that she took, right? We have sued the State Department under the law that requires them to seek the Justice Department's help to get records when someone takes them, like Mrs. Clinton did, improperly. And we're in court with them now because the Justice Department and the State Department haven't done enough to get the records back. And what is the Trump administration doing? They're fighting us on that, saying, oh no, we don't want to do anything else to get Hillary Clinton's records back. This again, my guess is President Trump would be outraged by this. And I know the American people are outraged by it.
Right.
Mrs. Clinton hasn't gone away. She's still a public figure. She says she's still involved in politics. She still needs to be held accountable. And frankly, the Obama administration needs to be held accountable as well, because this was a cover-up. We saw this with Mr. Comey. We saw this with President Obama and the Justice Department under President Obama, Attorney General Lynch's Justice Department. And why hasn't there been a change in attitude towards government and corruption? I don't understand it. And frankly, the leadership of the Justice Department, Attorney General Sessions, leadership of the FBI, leadership of the State Department, they need to step up and clean house.
They need to step up and clean house, and instead, they seem to be going in the opposite direction. I mean, it's just my opinion, but that's what I'm seeing. Point in case, the IRS. The IRS.
Oh yeah, don't get me started. We just received word last week that the Justice Department would refuse to reopen the IRS investigation or the investigation into the criminal abuses, potential criminal abuses by the Obama IRS and its targeting of the Tea Party and conservatives and such. And this is what the letter says to the Congress. They said that we've talked to the career bureaucrats and we're all in agreement that we don't want to open this up again. Well, that's really outrageous.
So they talked to the deep state. They talked to the deep state.
They talked to the career bureaucrats who were involved in working with the IRS. This is the dirty little secret about the IRS scandal. It involved the FBI and Justice Department, because the FBI and Justice Department were collaborating with Lois Lerner and the IRS to figure out ways to prosecute the very groups they shouldn't have, that Lois Lerner was suppressing. And the FBI got 1 million or so pages of records from the IRS they had no right to under the law, and they had to return once they were caught by Judicial Watch and Congress.
We caught them.
We caught them. We exposed that this was going on. And I just don't understand why this, again, Justice Department run by politicians who were put there because the American people wanted to drain the swamp, are protecting the corrupt IRS. But this is the deep state. These are the agencies being abused to target the American people. And surprise, surprise, the agencies don't want to investigate themselves. The Justice Department, the FBI, the IRS. And this is why I think the White House needs to take a more active role in supervising and demanding accountability, because the agencies will not do it on its own. You can't rely on regular procedure and regular order to get this work done.
Last week, if I'm not mistaken, it was last week, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff Sessions announced that he was going to let Lois Lerner go scot-free.
That's exactly right.
She would not be held accountable. And correct me if I'm wrong, and characterize it for our supporters, if you don't mind. didn't we pretty well substantiate that she deliberately targeted these conservative organizations?
Well, she and the entire IRS. I mean, Lois Lerner is an easy understand. You know, everyone knows who Lois Lerner was.
Right.
It was the Obama IRS working with Democrats in Congress, working with appointees of President Obama in the Justice Department and the FBI to target his political opponents in the run-up to the 2012 election. That's how they stole the election in 2012, because they suppressed the Tea Party movement, which could have been the difference between his winning and losing against Mitt Romney.
They suppressed the Tea Party movement, and Lois Lerner, if I'm not mistaken, we have the records of her going to the FEC to persecute the Tea Parties and the Justice Department, and now Jeff, the Attorney General does a Pontius Pilate on it.
Well, the Attorney General didn't sign the letter. The number two, Rod Rosenstein, didn't sign the letter. It was a third. It was a politician or a bureaucrat you don't know about who signed the letter. And ironically, we're still fighting the Justice Department and the IRS for records about this scandal. Everything we're talking about, Judicial Watch is in court about. And we don't rely on these agencies to do the right thing. That's why we do our own thing here. Because we know the Justice Department, the IRS, and the FBI ain't going to do it. So we need to expose what went on. And under the glorious American legal system and FOIA and things like that, we're able to go to court and get the accountability our government isn't providing. You know, we're happy to do the work, but it's outrageous that our appointed and elected officials aren't doing the work the American people demand of them.
And I think it's safe to say, I believe it's safe to say, that had Judicial Watch not been on top of the situation with Hillary's emails and with the IRS, had we not filed the FOIA lawsuits, the information would never have come out.
If not for Judicial Watch, we wouldn't know about the IRS scandal. We blew open the Benghazi scandal. The Clinton emails, as I'm sure you discussed already here. We wouldn't know about the Clinton email scandal, but for Judicial Watch's Freedom of Information Act request. We are providing the leadership in fighting corruption here in Washington. We're doing the heavy lifting that Washington, D.C. Institutions like Congress and the media, and frankly, the executive branch isn't doing.
Still not doing it at this point.
Still not doing it.
Even under Trump. Is there information about the Benghazi scandal that is still being covered by the deep state?
Yes, the State Department is withholding material from us on Benghazi. They fought us in court as to whether they were even going to search Mrs. Clinton's top aides' email accounts for information on Benghazi that involved Hillary Clinton. You wouldn't believe the petty and ridiculous and wasteful fights we get into with these government lawyers who seemingly are just doing whatever they want without any guidance from, again, the appointed officials confirmed by the Senate who are supposed to be running the show. After a while, is it the deep state or is it the appointees who just don't want to do, who really don't want to do this hard work of transparency? And I understand why corruption issues are difficult, because the other side fires back, and it's this mutually assured destruction pact that often Democrats and Republicans have. But this is what the American people expect them to do.
Let me ask you a question. The bureaucracy fights us, the deep state fights us. What kind of response do we get, or what kind of assistance do we get from the members of the Senate and the House who would think, in their oversight capacity, would be demanding what we are demanding, but don't seem to be?
We don't get much help. We do our own thing. We help Congress when we can. Sometimes we try to get information from Congress, but in our experience, they usually hold things very close to their vest. They want to find out what we're doing, but they don't want to tell us what's going on out there. And one of the things you should understand is that when Congress gets documents, they're not required to release them to the public. So Congress has documents that we may never have seen. So Congress doesn't want to do this oversight either. The House leadership doesn't want to do it. The Senate leadership doesn't want to do it. And again, this is why it's up to Judicial Watch to uncover what's been going on. The Russia scandal, I can't tell you. We've got probably 36 FOIA requests, going up near probably 15 lawsuits, I think, on the Russia scandal. It is a black hole in terms of information being produced by this administration on the Russia scandal. And the irony is you have the deep state holding back information that would hurt Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama, and also holding back information that might help President Trump, because it would expose the unmaskings, it would expose the identity of those involved in the illegal leaks of classified material, withhold information about the spying that took place on the Trump team, which is now being confirmed in news reports yesterday and today.
Right.
They were spying. Barack Obama used the IRS.
We said they were spying. The mainstream media denied they were spying. And now the truth finally comes out.
The truth comes out. They were spying on Team Trump.
Yes.
And President Trump was right about that. Yet they don't want to provide us any information. Just the other day, we received a notice from the National Security Agency because we asked about the unmaskings. Susan Rice has testified about it. We all know they took place, right?
Right.
The NSA said they can't confirm or deny whether there were any unmaskings. So this is again the deep state.
But Tom, she admitted it She admitted it before her testimony in Congress.
We're not allowed to talk about that. The NSA said it doesn't matter. Well, they will say when we push them in court, it doesn't matter. We're not allowed to talk about it. We're not going to tell you one way or another. They don't want to give us the Comey memos. They don't want to give us the information about the targeting of General Flynn. They were even targeting General Sessions, Attorney General Sessions, when he was a senator. They were spying on him. The Obama administration, and I tweeted this out today, they were pushing, they stole the 2012 elections, again, by abusing the IRS. And they tried to steal the 2016 elections by spying on Trump. Again, using the FBI and our national security surveillance state to spy on the Trump campaign, and while at the same time protecting Hillary. And again, it's the Trump administration.
It's frightening.
And compare and contrast the stonewalling on this. We still are getting stonewalled on the Clinton investigations too. We asked for information about the Bill Clinton, Loretta Lynch tarmac investigation. They came back to us with talking points about how they were going to deal with this, except the talking points are blacked out. Who blacked it out? The Trump Justice Department.
The Trump Justice Department blacked it out.
Blacked it out. So this key information about the big lies the Obama Justice Department were telling about this investigation are being withheld thanks to the Trump Justice Department. Who is running the show? Who's minding the store at the Justice Department?
I think for the average everyday American, for our tens of thousands of supporters watching this program right now, I guess the question they're going to have, and I've got to ask you, why doesn't Trump crack down on whoever it is supposed to be minding the store?
You know, my guess, he's being told he's not allowed to be president. I mean, look at the left's approach to Trump. You can't talk to foreigners. You can't protect the borders. You know, you're not allowed to talk to anybody on the phone. You're not allowed to communicate with the American people. You're not allowed to use the powers entrusted to you by the American people under the Constitution. And I've told the White House that they need to get this transparency revolution going, because that secrecy, it protects the deep state. They rely on it to do what they want, to lord over us improperly. And we're facing a constitutional crisis, in my view, because it's gotten to the point where they don't like the president. Typically, the bureaucracy doesn't like Republicans.
Right.
They like conservative Republicans even less. And Donald Trump is on a level beyond anything that's been there before in terms of the White House.
Right.
And so they think they're within their rights to remove him from office. Try to prosecute him or get him impeached, and if they can't prosecute him, they'll get his family or they'll target people around him. And if President Trump did anything wrong, sure, he should be subject to the rule of law.
Absolutely.
But this to me is sedition in terms of the efforts to undermine his policies. And on top of that, you've got this out-of-control Justice Department investigation into the presidency that was corrupted from the get-go, where you had Comey stealing records from the FBI, these so-called memos he wrote about Trump, and leaking them illegally to try to get a special counsel appointed. The special counsel, Mr. Mueller, whose FBI worked with the IRS to take all those files that I talked about with the IRS.
Point. Excellent point.
Mueller, who interviewed with Mr. Trump to be FBI director again, now he's investigating what? He's investigating himself? I don't understand how this is working. And of course, there are constitutional concerns about Mueller because he hasn't been appointed or confirmed by the Senate. And who's running the show there? Rod Rosenstein lets him do whatever he wants day to day.
Whatever he wants.
Whatever he wants. And that's not the way our justice system is supposed to work. These prosecutors need to be held to account by people accountable to the people through the United States Senate confirmations process. That's why you have U.S. attorneys who prosecute. So they bring in a lawyer who hires a bunch of other lawyers, and they just are given a blank check by the U.S. taxpayer. And if I were President Trump, I'd shut it down. I've talked about this publicly and repeatedly. They should shut it down.
Shut it down.
Shut it down.
Shut down the scavenger
and there's
hunt.
nothing
it's a scavenger hunt.
You can do these investigations without an unconstitutional special counsel doing them. If Paul Manafort did something wrong, that's a basic financial crimes. U.S. attorney up in New York can handle it.
Right.
There was no collusion, so there's really no investigation to be done. But if there is an investigation to be done, find someone who's accountable to the American people to do the investigation. So there's a check and balance there.
Tom, you brought us some points here which I know are very alarming to those who are watching and to the American people. Unfortunately, we've reached our time limit here, but what I would like is, if you don't mind, to direct our supporters and millions of other Americans look to you for the leadership you provided to Judicial Watch as to what they can do. And we know that everything begins with our supporters. So can you just direct the camera, let our supporters know what they need to do to keep this ball rolling at this point?
Well, you see, we are successful. I mean, we get accountability on the Clinton emails. We get accountability on Benghazi, and we will get accountability on this deep state battle we're facing. And we need your support to keep up the fight. Because when I talk about shutting down the Mueller investigation, when I talk about the obstruction we're getting from the deep state, no one in town wants to hear it, but they need to hear it. And when we have large support from the American people, they will hear it. They can't ignore it. Talk to your members of Congress, talk to the administration, let them know you're concerned about these issues and support our work. Because in the end, no matter what happens, we're going to be in court trying to get the truth to you so that you can hold your government officials to account under the law. And we're going to sue Republicans, we're going to sue Democrats, you name it, to find out just what the heck is going on here in Washington, D.C.
Tom, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Perfectly said. Thank you for joining us. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week on Inside Judicial Watch.